Hi everyone, my name is Kelly and I'm the CEO of a company called Women Friendly Services. What I wanted to talk to you about today was domestic violence. In the media over the last few weeks, we have seen some horrific cases of women that have been murdered by their husbands or partners after leaving domestic violent relationships. And I've seen a lot of myths and misconceptions about domestic violence circulating the internet. So I wanted to do this video for you to just help you understand a little bit more about domestic violence and why women may find themselves in one of these relationships. This year, in 2015, so far 2 women have been killed every week by their partners in domestically violent relationships. Personally, I find it a disgrace that today that can actually happen, that these poor women are leaving these relationships or trapped in relationships with partners that are actually killing them. In response to some of these posts on the internet and things that I've seen on social media, a lot of the questions get asked about why don't the women just leave their abusive partners? And I guess we have seen in the last few weeks that even leaving your abusive partner still cannot protect you from them. Domestic violence is just as much psychological as it is physical. It starts with tiny actions and words that seem harmless to begin with, but they really add up to something that is a lot more sinister in the long run. It slowly chips away at the woman's self-esteem. They feel very, very lonely and helpless and desperate, and they're no longer the strong woman that they may have found themselves when they entered into the relationship. They're a shadow of their former self. And this is because these tiny actions and words that seem harmless have added up to something a lot bigger for them. Women in domestic violence relationships find themselves very isolated from their friends and family, because that's a part of the control that the partner exerts on the woman. They only grant them very little access to their family and friends, and often really restrict who they can talk to, where they can go, and over time, because of the actions and words, this adds up to someone that is very, very isolated and lonely. They also have little access to the family finances. So if they were to leave the relationship, where would they go? Who can they go and see? They no longer have that supportive network of family and friends, and they have no money to go stay in hotels or to uproot potentially their children as well and take them with them, to take them to a safe place. They also have low self-esteem, and they experience a lot of shame, because the shame comes from, when they started out in these relationships, they never thought they'd end up in a violent relationship with a person. They're probably like most of you. You sit back and go, I don't even know how that person can end up in that relationship. Why don't they just leave? And so because they have stayed, because little tiny things add up to bigger things and bigger actions, they experience a lot of shame, and they feel embarrassed that they've stayed in that relationship. It's not what they have wanted from themselves. It's not what they've hoped from themselves, but they feel completely trapped to stay in that relationship. And they are very fearful of leaving, because they know the danger that awaits them should they leave. Their partners threaten them. They threaten to, in some cases, they threaten extreme violence with them. And what we have seen is that partners do carry out that extreme violence. They do follow through. And these women are living in these very, very real relationships of fear. And I think those of you who have looked into domestic violence a little bit realize that statistically, a woman is in the most danger for her life and for her children's lives when they just leave a domestically violent relationship. So in some instances, to protect themselves and to protect their children, they'll stay in those relationships rather than just leave them. And although it is not what you and I would potentially want for that woman, I can understand why they do it. Where are they going to go? Who's going to protect them? We've seen in the last week that they can't be protected. So it's very frustrating. It's a very frustrating situation. And I really feel that until we can guarantee the safety of these women that leave these relationships and the safety of their children, then this problem is never going to go away. One of the other aspects that I find really frustrating too is that personally I feel we're asking the wrong questions about domestic violence. We seem to be saying, why doesn't the woman just not put up with that? Or why do they just not leave that relationship? How could they have stayed in that relationship for so long? Why aren't we asking questions about Why are men violent towards women? Why do men feel the need to some men, feel the need to exert this control over their partners and women and express it in a psychologically and physically violent manner? Personally, I think they're more the questions that we need to be asking to eradicate domestic violence for future generations. Yes, we can arm the women and tell them to leave and give them safe places to go. But let's educate men and encourage men and give men the tools that they need to stop this cycle of abuse for future generations.